You know this professional. You've likely worked with them. They're in every organization, the one person who is unfailingly helpful. And while this is often celebrated, this pattern has a hidden and quite high cost. In this analysis, we're going to examine that cost and outline a path to a more effective way of operating. It all starts with their responsiveness, doesn't it? Requests are met with an immediate yes, often without a moment's pause. They very quickly become the go-to person for everything. And this support isn't just for their own team, it extends across the entire organization. A request for help is almost never refused, which, of course, builds a reputation for being a dependable collaborator. The result of this is significant social capital. They are genuinely well regarded, they're seen as reliable, and they're trusted. On the surface, this looks like the perfect professional profile. But a pattern like this, it just isn't sustainable. Beneath all that harmony, a very different dynamic is starting to take hold. That positive perception, well, it begins to hide a growing professional liability. The consequences start to show up quite clearly. First, their workload becomes completely unmanageable. Then, despite all the effort, they begin to feel their contributions aren't truly recognized. And finally, their own career development slows to a halt because it's consumed by everyone else's priorities. And this leads us to this central question. Are we looking at authentic, high-impact collaboration, or are we seeing a pattern of compliance that's driven by something else entirely? To really understand this behavior, we have to look past the office environment. This tendency to always say yes is rarely a conscious strategy. Its roots are usually much, much deeper. Often, the pattern stems from early psychological conditioning. A core belief gets formed. Approval is granted for being agreeable, and you secure acceptance by being useful. This conditions the mind to equate saying yes with being valued, and to see refusal as a direct risk of rejection. This conditioning creates a very critical shift in their internal logic. The primary question stops being, what is the right or effective thing to do? Instead, it becomes, what will maintain harmony and keep everyone else comfortable? Now, it's crucial we make a distinction here. The issue is not an excess of kindness. Kindness is a professional strength. The actual problem is a deep-seated fear of disapproval, and that fear drives decisions that are often counterproductive. Okay, so let's translate this psychological root into the behaviors we can actually observe in a corporate setting. The signs are very consistent. This person takes on more work, even when they're already at capacity. They'll agree publicly in a meeting while privately disagreeing. They constantly let others' expectations override their own strategic goals. And finally, they actively avoid any difficult conversation to preserve a surface-level peace. This creates a huge gap between perception and reality. To the rest of the company, they look like the ultimate team player. But internally, they feel completely overextended, unappreciated, and unheard. So while this behavior might feel positive in the short term, the long-term career impact is almost always negative. The damage is subtle, but it accumulates over time. This chart really illustrates the core paradox. As the compliant professional's workload goes up, their actual impact on strategic outcomes stagnates or even starts to decline. Consequently, their visibility on high-value projects diminishes because their ownership is diluted across countless minor tasks. This dynamic creates a self-reinforcing cycle. It starts with overgiving time and energy. That leads to being under-recognized because true impact is now very difficult to measure. And over time, this imbalance fosters a deep internal resentment that often goes completely unexpressed. And here we arrive at the crucial insight. Professional value isn't a function of volume. It's a function of clarity and focus. Operating with clear boundaries and clear intentions is what truly defines a high-impact professional. Now, recognizing this pattern is the first step. The next is to understand the pathway to evolve beyond it, and this involves a clear progression toward professional maturity. We can map this journey in 4 stages. It starts with unconditional acceptance. Every request gets a yes. Next comes initial hesitation, where doubt about this default response begins to form. This evolves into selective agreement, where conscious choices are made. The final stage is establishing clear boundaries, where intentionality, not obligation, guides every action.
And let me be very clear on this. The objective here isn't to become difficult or unhelpful. The goal is to transition from a reactive state of compliance to a proactive state of intentional contribution.
In the end, professional strength isn't measured by agreeableness. It's measured by judgment. The most effective professionals aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They're the ones who understand the strategic value of saying no, and have learned to do so with clarity, with respect, and with conviction.